So many people just need to get back up and not worry about what other people think and just kind of put your blinders on and just say, hey, I believe in what I'm doing. I don't care what anybody else says, right? I don't care that somebody says I'm an ambulance chaser, because I know I'm not. And I'm going to sit here and tell the world what I do and how I can help. I don't care if somebody says, something bad about me. I mean, that just, the bigger you get, the bigger the target on your back gets.
Hey there, hot messes. Welcome to Success of a Hot Mess, where we celebrate the art of juggling life's chaos and coming out on top. I'm Stacey Isaacs, your host and resident rock star lawyer, dance mom, and survivor. We're going to dive into candid conversations about conquering challenges, embracing our unique selves, and finding success in the beautiful mess of it all. Hey, hot messers. Today, we have the pleasure of having on the podcast Brandon Dawson, founding member of Miller, Dawson, Siegel, and Ward Injury Attorneys, otherwise known as the Thumbs Up Guys, right?
That's right, the Thumbs Up Guys, because no one can ever remember Miller, Dawson, Siegel, and Ward. It's a mouthful.
I love that. So out of the gate, Brandon, can you tell me who came up with the Thumbs Up Guys?
I'd love to say it was me. We actually ended up hiring a marketing company out of Nashville, Whiteheart Advertising, and they were the ones that have been using it. We're actually in the process right now of acquiring that trademark. So it's something that, we knew we needed to change. We tried MDSW and advertising as that, and it just wasn't sticky. And Whiteheart has been a phenomenal partner with us and helped us grow tremendously over the years. And so they pitched the Wolf Pack and the Thumbs Up Guys. And fortunately, in South Carolina, we're not allowed to have mascots. So the Wolf Pack was out, much to the demise of my partner, Ryan Siegel, who is a North Carolina State graduate of the Wolf Pack. So he was pushing for the Wolf Pack. But we kind of landed on the Thumbs Up Guys. And it really has been such a great brand. And I think it really engenders a positive vibe. And that people really remember it.
I'm just going to write myself a note. We're going to change work injury rights to the Wolf Pack. I really like that.
There we go.
Just kidding. Okay, well, you brought up Ryan Siegel, and so I have to ask, because David Ben wants to know if Ryan Siegel is Jewish or that name just sounds Jewish.
Oh, you got to have at least one Jew if there's four of us, right? Oh, absolutely.
I didn't know they really existed in Charleston, but I'm allowed to say that because I'm a proud Jew. But I'm glad to hear you have the one.
Yes,
everybody likes.
Yeah, Siegel's. I've known him for a long time. He went to law school with my wife, so I've known Siegel for going on 15 plus years now. Phenomenal person, amazing attorney. He's really been a great friend as well over the years. And actually, Charleston does have a pretty large Jewish community here. So there's a pretty decent amount of them. My son, the school he goes to, the one I graduated from, actually had probably the largest amount of Jewish students. So I grew up with a bunch of guys and girls, they'd be out and I'm like, what are you off school for today? And they're like, oh, it's this holiday. And I'm like, man, that must be nice.
Well, that's cool. I love Charleston. It's such a nice, quaint little city with lots to do. And I'm glad to know that they have a nice little Jewish community there. I did want to ask you, I know that your wife, Jessica, she's also an attorney, but she's an artist as well.
Yes, she is many things. Mom, wife, attorney, very, very talented artist. She just finished illustrating a children's book that was authored by Ryan Siegel's wife, Price Siegel, that is going to be available on Amazon. I actually think you can pre-order it right now. It's called Mary Goop, and it's all about geared towards young children and teaching them manners. So she illustrated the entire thing. She loves to do paintings. She has a very different sort of personality that you would think of than a typical lawyer. That usually us lawyers aren't very artistic. I get the same reaction when people find out that I sing in a band. They're like, really? Yeah.
But I think that a lot of attorneys need some venue to express the creativity that we might not get to do. especially in workers' compensation in Florida, just because it's like all statutory.
Yep.
And I don't know how it is in South Carolina. You could tell me a little bit about that later, but I want to talk about the more exciting stuff, like your incredible resemblance to Paul Rudd, the actor.
I've gotten that more than a few times. I always say I wish I was as good looking as him and got voted, sexiest man alive, or was appearing in more movies like he was. But if Paul Rudd's out there and he's ever listening to this and he needs, a stand-in or a double, I'm happy to jump in and do my best.
Yeah, it would work. And if Paul Rudd, if you're ever listening, then I'm doing something really right. But where can people find Jessica's art if they want to?
Instagram's probably the
Purchase.
best spot. Jess Dawson Art is where you can find her art. Yeah, and then the book again is Mary Goop, Goop, Mary Goop.
Very cool.
Yeah.
See, we lawyers are more interesting than we seem, I think.
Yes. Yeah, you
All
and
of
Jess
us.
definitely are. I don't know about me and David.
That's funny. And you and Jess share something that David and I have in common, in that we're married to attorneys, but mine is actually one of my law partners. That's a whole separate podcast that needs to be done. But how have you found it being married to an attorney?
Yeah, I think, and I'm curious of your take on this, especially being partners in a business with your husband, that the way that we disagree, we're always trying to kind of win the argument, and for us, I think from the outside looking in, you might think, man, they argue a lot, but because of our backgrounds, we're not mad at each other. We're just trying to kind of angle and get our point across and argue our point. And so, it's funny at times people are like, man, y'all were arguing. Like, we weren't arguing. Like, we didn't see it as that, but outside looking in might look at that a little bit differently. So, it is just, being conscious of that you don't necessarily need to win every argument, right? Sometimes you win the argument and lose the war. And so being mindful that we're not carrying that same work mentality home and saying, well, gosh, is this really something I need to, die on the hill for? No, right? So I think that it's being conscious about kind of turning that switch off at times.
It's so funny you just said that, because one of my daughters is 15, and she'll say, stop arguing. And I said, this is not an argument.
Yeah.
I am not angry. This is just how I speak. And David's a lawyer too. We're just presenting evidence.
That's right.
Each side.
That's exactly right. Yeah. My son will be like, guys, stop. And I mean, he's only 7. And we're like, we're not, like, we're good,
Right.
But yeah, so you do have to be mindful of, the, younger ears listening and, what sort of example you're setting, at least how they're seeing it. And I think that's something to be mindful of.
That's exactly right. So being a Charleston native, are you at all familiar with the show Southern Charm?
I'm familiar with the show. I know that that all the women that I know love that show. I don't know any guys that are watching it, but I did. Oh gosh, Thomas Ravenel is somebody that I had. My high school girlfriend, they were friends with the Ravenels, and so I would see Thomas on occasion when he was. This is before I think he got arrested for the cocaine in the back of the car on the Ravenel Bridge, which was ironic, right?
Right.
It's an interesting crowd. That's a world that I don't live in anymore. Having kids, and so going out and doing all those things. I'm happy that it's bringing more notice to Charleston. I don't know if it's necessarily the right sort of thing that I want Charleston highlighted for, but they all seem like some really good people on there, some more so than others, but yeah, you'll see people like that from time to time around town, and it has been something that I think another friend of ours recently, somebody I kind of like know friends of a friend, she just started appearing on the show, so I was talking to her and asking about it, and I was like, is it scripted? She's like, well, they kind of give you like topics to talk on. And then just kind of let you go from there. So it's kind of interesting to get a little bit of the back story.
So besides being in my band, like, my next biggest passion is reality TV. I'm a junkie, and specifically Bravo. So Southern Charm is on the top of my list. And I met Austin down here. I was performing, and the bar my band was performing at had him there promoting his beer. So that kind of worked out. And there is an attorney on the show, Craig Conover.
Yeah. He, I want to say he tried to start a little like Instagram push for getting cases, and then I don't think that kind of fizzled out a little bit, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's got a big line or store now. There's a storefront.
The
What is that
pillows,
main street you
yeah, on
guys
King
have?
Street,
King Street, and his business is sewing down south, sewing. So there's like home
right?
furnishings and stuff.
Yeah. Now I've heard his pillows are really nice, and I think you're paying a premium for those pillows, from what I hear.
Definitely. Yeah. But I got to get to Charleston again. I love it there.
Please do.
Okay. So you went to Clemson and then you returned home to go to Charleston School of Law. Now, did you always want to be in the personal injury workers' comp arena?
Well, I don't know if I necessarily even really intended to be a lawyer. I graduated school in '07, got into finance. That was the market crash in '08. And, kind of was like, I don't really love what I'm doing. Charleston School of Law had opened up. And I didn't really want to leave Charleston again, being a Charleston boy. And I said, you know what? Why don't I go rack up a bunch of student loan debt that I don't have, and go back to law school? So, I did that, and thought, well, this will give me an opportunity to have, more jobs out there rather than just an MBA. I thought, a law degree would give me, kind of open more doors. And then as I was in law school, I was trying out different jobs, and I really enjoyed a job I had at a mass tort firm down here, and helping people. And I sat in on a bellwether case for Chantix, which was the anti-smoking drug, and it was causing hallucination. And this poor guy went from being a totally normal guy to committing suicide. And there was no warnings or anything like that on Chantix. And, speaking with his wife and, kind of hearing their story, it really touched me that, I could actually help people. And so mass tort, obviously, you don't get many of the kind of the bellwether ones where you actually get to talk to people and hear their story. It's more kind of where do they fit in a matrix. And so personal injury, same vein, but you actually get to talk to people in the single event space. And so, yeah, I found a job. I actually turned down a pretty big clerkship for a judge because I just didn't love research and writing. It wasn't like one of the things I wanted to do, and it would have been great. And the judge was amazing. But I just knew I wasn't passionate about it. And so I felt a lot more of a calling to do PI. And I found a job at a one woman shop down here when I started. And it was just me and her, and helped grow that to 8 figures in revenue, and then left there and started this firm. So.
And how did you meet these other fellas?
So like I said, Ryan Siegel was in law school with Jess. So I knew Ryan, and then I recruited him over to the law firm that I was at the time. And then he recruited Ryan Miller over, who went to law school with Jess and Siegel as well. And then Jeff and I both clerked for that same mass tort firm, Richard and Patrick. And we got connected later when we were looking to hire, and I was in charge of kind of bringing in a lot of people at that old firm. And so, I brought in Ryan. I brought in Ryan Siegel. Siegel brought in Miller, and then I brought in Jeff. And then we all just kind of, hit it off. And we had, I think when we left there were 20-ish attorneys. But the four of us just seemed to kind of have the same idea of how a law firm should be run. And we had kind of different paths on how that we wanted to start our own firm, and then kind of came together later as it all kind of pieced out. In the way the chips fell, they fell, the way they did, and it worked out. So.
And how long has your firm been in business?
We started, technically I was gone in 17, but we opened up our doors in January of 18. So what is that? It's going on 6.5 years now.
Congrats.
Yeah,
that's
thanks.
awesome.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Now, you guys all still handle cases, or are you more managers?
I have not had a case in about a year and a half. So obviously, we're still sitting in and looking at cases, doing roundtable meetings. My other three partners still handle kind of our high end cases. They're still evaluating. Again, on the roundtable cases, giving input on our A plus star cases. But yeah, I have kind of taken on that role even early on. I always had a finance background, and it helped again kind of start that other firm and get it from $250,000 in revenue to 10 million by the time I left. So I'd seen a lot of that and had been a large part of the management. I wasn't just, an attorney in that. It was doing a lot of the other stuff. And so that was a role that was kind of left to me originally. So I always had a little bit lighter caseload. And then as we continue to grow, I've got great partners who understand that, we needed somebody to be able to manage the day to day, and that this is a business, not just a law firm. And so many people get stuck in that mentality that, what's a law firm? You got to be a lawyer. It's like, well, no, it's a business that happens to be a law firm, not the other way around. And so, January of last year, I think maybe January, March of last year was I finally wrapped up my last case. And it was actually probably my favorite case I had. It was Venezuelan anesthesiologist who had to leave Venezuela for political asylum reasons. And he ended up here. So, he's a doctor. The guy's so smart, and he's working two jobs as a janitor to help pay for his son's schooling. I mean, he's just working his behind off, and he tears his shoulder up, gets a hernia. I don't know about y'all, but hernias are, weird cases in the workers' comp world. And, they fought him tooth and nail. I had, we brought in the other job, added the wages, got the hernia dealt with, and then he had the shoulder. And we're able to ultimately, after a couple of years, get him a great result, get him healthy. But he was so nice. And, it was just one of these people where, he got born in the wrong country, right? I mean, super smart, super kind, just a tremendous person. And he was just so thankful along the way. And it really, even talking about him now, I mean, David was just, a great, great human. And I was really happy to be able to help him. And it was nice that I could kind of end it with him.
Yeah, that's a nice story. I mean, it is nice when clients show some gratitude.
Yeah.
Especially, we're in the contingency fee space, so we're not getting paid until could be years into it. And, there's a lot of work that goes on, a lot of phone calls, a lot of hand holding with the clients, which we're happy to do, but it is nice when there's some appreciation and you remember those people forever.
100%.
I mean, I actually still have about 3 cases. I'm mediating one this coming Monday. But I did, save the best for last, but
you want those clients that appreciate you. It really makes it a lot more meaningful.
Rewarding.
Right? Yeah. Rewarding is a really good word for it. Yeah.
Now, do you speak any other languages?
I don't. My dad spoke Spanish, but I did not. He passed away when I was 9, so I was not able to pull off his Spanish language. I've tried a few times. Jess and I have talked. We love to travel, and I'd say Spain's probably our favorite spot. And I'd love to go over there. And we've talked about it. I'm like, man, I'd love to go over there for a year and just like totally immerse myself and learn Spanish, because I can, once I'm over there for a week or two, I can get by. I mean, it's not good, but I can kind of understand. I can say enough where I'm like, if I was over here for a year, I think I could pull this off. But
yeah, it's definitely true that if you don't use it, you lose it, because I literally majored in Spanish at the University of Miami, which was challenging. There's a large Cuban, student population, and I was just a Jersey girl. But and then I studied in Spain for a little bit, but I went to law school, didn't use it at all for 3 years, and my conversation is terrible. So I can understand people, but they cannot understand me with my horrible accent. But what does your firm do for any Hispanic clientele? Do you have translators?
Yep, we've got 2 on our intake team that are amazing. We had a third who's a virtual that ended up not working out. And we have another attorney who is conversational in Spanish. We're always looking. We are trying to get somebody who can, on the case manager side and the attorney side, that is, full on um, you know, bilingual. We had an intern this summer, one of our clerks that was bilingual. So trying to do more of that when we can. It's definitely an area that we'd like to grow, but I don't think it's right for us to go market to the Hispanic population and not be able to speak to them in their language. It's, fully, always
Right.
having to translate. You need to be able to have that conversation directly with the person. I think if you're really going to like say, hey, we help people in the Hispanic market, well, like we actually have to have somebody.
Yeah. I think 95% of my staff is Colombian or Puerto Rican. They all, they speak Spanish, and it does help
Yeah.
with relating to the clients. I know that you have been a South Carolina Super Lawyers Rising Star for 4 years now.
Yeah. Might even be longer than that. Yeah. It's been for a while now.
That's impressive. Congratulations.
Thanks. I
I
appreciate
think at this point we could say, you're no longer rising.
it. Yeah.
You're a star. Besides personal injury, your firm does workers' compensation, and what else?
Yeah, this, but I think a lot of times the population at large doesn't really know the difference when they hear personal injury. I mean, that's anything from big truck wrecks, so 18-wheelers. We do a lot of that sort of work. Motorcycle accidents, slip and falls, dog bites. Those all fit in there. And of course, obviously, just your everyday run of the mill motor vehicle collisions. The cases my partners handle again are typically the trucking cases, the severe injury. We have a golf cart case with the dram shop. So here in South Carolina, it's if you've been drinking, at a bar and they overserved you, and then you go, run into somebody, the bar can be held liable. So, those sort of cases are ones that obviously take more skill, and it's a little bit more of a niche market, and so those are things that they really focus in and ratchet down on. We've got one right now where this little girl was slipped through a balcony that was out of code and fell like 2 stories. So really trying to work on cases like that can make a difference to say, hey, not only do you owe this little girl money, but also let's fix this so it doesn't happen again, right? We can't go back in time and change this one, but what we can do is make sure we get her every single penny available, because you guys, insurance companies, they lie and they say, oh, there's only $1 million in coverage. And we're like, no way, we don't believe it. And they go, yeah, it is. And then you uncover it and there's almost $20 million in coverage once you finally start digging in there. And then they go, oh, well, and so those are the things that I think that are really impactful for us that we really like to do. But the everyday kind of keep the lights on stuff would be, again, workers' comp cases and your typical motor vehicle cases.
Have you ever sued an amusement park for a faulty ride?
No, we've had some ATV rides where you go and you rent a 4-wheeler and they take you on a trail, but we don't have any amusement parks here. We have we have some water slides,
Okay.
but we don't have like a Six Flags. There's a Carowinds up in Charlotte, Fort Mill area, and up in Myrtle Beach. You'll see some of it with like zip lining and things like that.
This is why I'm afraid to do anything.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, exactly.
I'm
My
an
wife's the
attorney.
same way.
I won't zip line. I don't do ATVs. I hate roller coasters.
The trampoline parks.
Those are bad too.
Yeah.
My daughter, she's been begging for a trampoline in the backyard forever, but I've seen so many injuries from those. It's like, when you have children, it's a whole new world of fears to have, especially when you're an injury attorney and you've seen all the bad things that can happen.
That's right. I always tell my wife, though, I'm like, look, like they only call us when there's a problem. So you can't look at it and say, well, this always happens. Well, it's like, well, of course you think that because they called us and that's all we're seeing. We're not getting a call every time a kid jumps on a trampoline or goes down a zip line and it's perfectly fine. But I will say there are a few places that I know from just some defense attorneys who are friends of mine. They're like, do not ever go on XYZ zip line. Like they are horrible. And those are the ones that, you're like, well, maybe I'm better off just not going on them.
Right. What advice would you give to young attorneys who want to do personal injury? Um, I think there's a perception that we're ambulance chasers. How would you tell them to avoid that stereotype? What can they do?
Yeah, I think one, you've got to be yourself, right? I mean, there's so many different ways to approach this. You can come in and be completely outlandish in social media and give yourself that, ambulance chaser tag, and if that's what you want, go for it. It's not really, what I think you and I would say that we do, but understanding the why behind it. The story I was telling earlier about David, and helping somebody like that. So you get it. Where somebody says exactly that. Well, you're just taking money and giving it to people who don't really deserve it. And I go, actually, what I'm doing is giving it to people who really deserve it, and the insurance companies are ripping people off. Insurance companies have done such a great job of misinformation to the public and making that exact stigma stick. And that's just not true at all. They're actually the bad guys, right? They're the ones out there that are hiding millions of dollars from a little girl who fell off a balcony.
Is she okay, by the way?
She's doing all right. I mean, for following two stories, the fact that she's alive, of course, is a miracle. She's having some seizures and things of that nature that they're still trying to get under control. I mean, she's young. I think she's 4 or 5. And so it's going to be one of those things where you don't know, right? There's certain parts of her brain that have necrosis, and it's just. I think you could look at her today and maybe spend 10 minutes with her and be like, oh, she seems totally normal for a 4 or 5-year-old. But developmentally down the road, what's going to happen? And then you have the seizures. And so there's a lot of stuff that kind of goes into that. So obviously we're praying for her to have an amazing recovery, but we also know there's probably going to be a lot of testing and doctor visits and specialists and things of that nature that she needs to have access to. So I think for that young attorney that's looking to get started, it's one, understand the why. It can't be for the money. You have to actually care about people and be authentic. You won't make it if you think it's for the money. It's just not. It's not for that. Not for the faint of heart. I mean, it's a difficult job, but also don't be afraid to fail and try things and say, well, that didn't work. Doesn't mean that I'm a failure. It's maybe advertising this way didn't work, or go try a case. And it's, if you lose, you learn, you learned a lot, right? Get back up and try another case. I think so many times people fail and they don't get back up. And I think failure is really it's just not getting back up, and we have this, I think, fear of failure. And so many people just need to get back up and not worry about what other people think, and just kind of put your blinders on and just say, hey, I believe in what I'm doing. I don't care what anybody else says, right? I don't care that somebody says I'm an ambulance chaser, because I know I'm not. And I'm going to sit here and tell the world what I do and how I can help. I don't care if somebody says, something bad about me. I mean, that just, the bigger you get, the bigger the target on your back gets. And I welcome it, but you got to have thick skin to be able to do this.
Yeah, I read a quote somewhere. It said, have you ever met a hater doing better than you? And generally, the critics are not super successful people, because if they are, they're really too busy.
That's exactly right. I read something very similar. It was like, you don't hear, Michael Jordan hating on his teammates, right? They're the great leaders, the great ones. They're lifting you up, or they're too busy succeeding. It's the haters are the ones that are below you. And, what's the quote? It's a lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of sheep.
Yes.
It's kind of the same mentality.
That's true. Well, I think you are one of the good guys, and I find it refreshing, when I do hear a lawyer say it's not about the money, and I really still want to help people, because I do think people with that mindset in law are the happiest. It's the ones chasing just money who really hate the practice that are very unhappy.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And you got to find, again, like what you really enjoy about it. And I really enjoy like the business of law. I mean, I enjoy helping people, but I feel like I can help more people through the other passion I have, which is growing this as a business and making sure that, we're able to provide our services, which is, more than just the money, right? At the end of the day, the only thing we can actually give somebody at the end is money, but it's more than that. It's like I was saying earlier, it was, getting David double the amount of money he was that he was entitled to, that the insurance company said he was only entitled to half of it. It was getting him the surgery so he could actually get back to work and get back to being healthy. It was picking up the phone and talking to him when he had questions, being there when he's gone, man, I don't know, like, what's going on in my life. How am I going to, pay rent, and just being there as a guide. And I think it's more than just the money. And again, that's what you see at the end of it, but it's so much more than that. And you have to actually care about people and understand that, they are humans and they are going through a really difficult time. They probably never have gone through this before. And so having that, sympathy and empathy, to be able to talk to people, it can't be about the money. It can't. At the end, yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but, it has to be so much more than that.
Now, do you have commercials, bus benches? What is your biggest form of advertising?
Yeah, all of the above. We went into TV first, so we're heavy TV. We're probably top 3 here. Morgan's here, so they're always just number one in pretty much any market, and then we're probably number one on the radio here. We've got a large outdoor presence. We probably have, 15 to or about 20 to 25 boards up. What do we have? 3 or 4 buses running around here. 4 buses running around here. Obviously heavy on the PPC side, and social media. I mean, you name it, we're trying to be anywhere, everywhere. And really one of the big things this year for me was doing more community outreach. So trying to give back, not just in dollars, but in time as well. And so, we not only do we sponsor the backpack giveaway, for a local school community, anybody in the community could come. We gave out over 1,000 book bags with school supplies in partnership with Sharika Myers and Everyone Voice Matters. But we had 25 or 30 people from our team, kids out there helping out, just giving away different items to people in need that maybe their kid wouldn't have had a book bag and school supplies when they started the year. And that we can't have that happen. It's not going to happen in my backyard. And my partners feel the same way, that we've got to make sure that if we're in a position to give back, that we do that. And so we've been able to do that. Was obviously most recent. Other sponsorships that give back to other kind of needy communities, blood drives, food bank. We're just trying to do more and more of that, and getting out. And we do scholarship athletes. I think last year we gave away, $10,000 or $15,000 to scholarship and scholarship money for kids. So we're trying to do more of that, and just really bring up our community and make it a better place. Charleston's already a great place. I think we're number one city in America, or in the world, 10 years in a row from Condé Nast, but we want to do our small part in helping continue to lift up the community here, because we've got some great people that are doing a lot of great things, and we just want to be a part of that.
I love that. It sounds like you guys are doing great stuff. Well, Brandon, can you take us home with a thumbs up?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
The thumbs up, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. And where can listeners find your firm?
Well, thank you, Stacey. I really appreciate you having me on the podcast. And please tell David I said hello. And you're certainly much easier to look at than he is. So,
Thank you.
You can find us at inpain.com. That's our website, or just Google the Thumbs Up Guys. You'll find us anywhere doing that.
inpain.com or Google the Thumbs Up Guys. Very cool. Thanks again. I'll see you at the next mastermind, probably.
Looking forward to it, Stacey.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Success of a Hot Mess. If you loved what you heard today, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a beat. And hey, sharing is caring. Share this podcast with your friends, family, and anyone who could use a dose of inspiration. Until next time, keep rocking those hot mess moments with style and grace. Cheers.